This is a Clouds weather alert.
Good late Tuesday, everybody. Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center giving you the latest look here at that temperature map across North Florida and South Georgia. You can see here on this Valentine's Day night, the temperatures here generally in the 40s as we get toward the Tallahassee area. Toward Albany, similar story there, and even over toward Valdosta, you're seeing readings around 47 degrees. Now, as you get there closer toward the Atlantic coast, we're seeing readings there in the upper 50s, maybe even some spots closer toward 62 degrees there as we get out toward Mayport. And even as we look there at the map as a whole one last time toward Apalachicola, they're sitting about 60 degrees. So seeing some of those different trends here across the viewing area, but we're going to go ahead now and look at the forecast as we look ahead here in the timeline because we do have that logo red still. It's not maybe as big of a threat as we were thinking initially here, but we're going to maintain the logo being red here for now because there's still enough of a threat to be somewhat concerned here as we look out toward the west. Now for our local area, not so much right at this point. It doesn't look like, it looks like things will really be weakening down as the accent gets a little bit closer here, but we're going to continue just to watch the overall runs here with the models because each model run can be very important in terms of providing some valuable insight here. So there's that 2-2 outlook. It'll be day one here pretty soon, but you can see out toward that central time zone, Dallas over toward Little Rock, Shreveport, Greenville there, Memphis. You kind of get the idea. There is that slight risk of severe weather. Could get an enhanced risk area kind of within this somewhere, but the concern level again isn't as high as what we were thinking. It's not as high as what we were thinking here late last week when we were on Saturday. I know that situation didn't really transpire as badly as it could have. Roy got lucky. We got quite a bit of rain, beneficial rain in many areas here. Roy helping us with those drought situations evolving. I mean, some areas they get a little bit too much, but overall, we got pretty lucky in the grand scheme of things. That was some good news here. As we look back last week, Roy didn't get severe weather reports coming into play. You see day 3 here, which is that Thursday. Areas there all the way from the Gulf Coast up toward western New York under a slight risk. You rarely see a slight risk this big, but at least there's not a risk like an enhanced there within that yet. That could change. Some area there within that could get noted for that higher level of concern, but at this point we're not quite seeing that. But again, that could change. You're talking about areas all the way from Mobile, Jackson, Mississippi there, up toward Memphis, Tennessee, Nashville there, Bowling Green, Kentucky, Louisville there, over toward Columbus, Ohio. You just kind of get the idea there. I mean, all the way up toward Cleveland. So that's just crazy to see there. That type of threat in play for that big of an area, and you see a margin risk for our western counties. So we could see an isolated rogue severe storm here as we're getting into toward the wee hours of Thursday into early Friday. So we're talking about the wee hours there Thursday night is what I mean by that. So we're still about 48 hours away from maybe something like that transpiring in our local areas. So not too concerned right now. I know that Daytona 500 this weekend here, weather looking really good for that. Not always the case, but this year it's looking really good for that as we're looking ahead towards your Sunday. So this we get out of the way in time. It's going to be kind of falling apart as it gets closer, but we're keeping the logo red just because some of the parameters are still there. It's just right now they're not expected to really come together, but since we have some of the higher parameters there in terms of some of the different aspects here of the scenario, I don't want to let our guard down because once we kind of go with the logo being red here, we don't want to just take it away and then have something bad happen here from that national level. So we'll still be on guard here, ready to cut in if we need to for a more significant severe weather threat out toward the west. Again, right now, looking a little less likely, but it's not impossible that we could get a stronger tornado somewhere within one of these areas that's outlooked. And I know you can go to cloudweather.com/severe when we're not on the air for the latest look at things in terms of those outlooks. We may post some updates there on the different social media pages as necessary as well. But cloudweather.com/severe, a good place to go for some updated Storm Prediction Center information. Even just go straight to the SPC website. That's another option as well, depending on the way you want the maps to look. Some different aspects there between the different pages in general. Here I have some maps closer toward the southeast in terms of focus for the website there. well, you can get an NASCAR view more on the SPC site itself, spc.noaa.gov. But again, we're just going to keep our eyes on this situation here. Just want to make sure with some of these higher FTP values that some of the models are showing, it looks like they're not going to be really in the right areas in a lot of situations, but we got to just be careful here. We may not have the right parameters come together in total, but if they do, we could get surprised like we did last month there. We got really surprised in a terrible way there with a lower end risk just like this one, a 2 out of 5, becoming tornado emergency after tornado emergency. We had, of course, there toward Alabama, just tragic fatalities being reported there with those tornado emergencies that were being issued there. I know we got past Selma, we had those, but even in Selma, a lot of damage occurred there. So just got to be on guard just in case things kind of overachieve. But we were thinking we may see higher risk levels on this as we were looking at this time in the overall situation. So that's some good news, but we still probably will have some tornadoes. A tornado over a city or over anybody's home or anybody in general can be very dangerous. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Your rainfall forecast here in terms of the next 7 days. So there's more rain toward northern Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky. You see on the order there 1-2 inches in general, but some spots could get more than that. Toward our area, you see a lot less rain, which is some good news in some ways. It just depends what you need. I know where we're at, we're actually a little bit wet in terms of some of the grounds. I mean, it just depends on the actual nature of things, your level there in terms of just how you are. Really, some areas drain better than others. I mean, you just got to be kind of keeping that in mind. We're east of Stark and Bradford County, so this kind of depends on where you're at. But I know, just kind of intriguing to think about in that regard. You can go to cloudweather.com/radar, though we're not on the air for a look at interactive radar to kind of get an idea of where storms are. We're not here giving you the latest information on the air on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. So let's go ahead and see some fog safety tips now. I know not something that is talked about a lot, but we do have that threat here. These temperatures getting a little bit warmer at night. Some of the right parameters coming together. Maybe here later on, we could be seeing more of that as we're looking toward north central Florida, for instance. So I want to just include this in here just so you guys are aware that this is a possibility, at least, that make sure you're slowing down and giving yourself some extra time to reach your destination. Maybe you don't get a dense fog advisory per se, but just these tips still come in handy even if you don't have a advisory per se. So make sure your vehicle is as visible as possible to other vehicles by using those low beam headlights. Leave plenty of room between you and the vehicle in front of you. So very important information just to kind of keep in mind here. We're just going to monitor things here from that national level, and that local level here in the Weather Center. So again, let's go ahead and go to that 7-day forecast though. You can see here now on this Wednesday, we're expecting a high of 78 degrees, give or take, depending on exactly where you're at within our 62 county zone. 80 degrees on that Thursday, so warming on up, and then going back down some. We have those chances for storms coming into play here late Thursday, early Friday. Maybe a strong storm, maybe a severe storm, but our logo's not red because of that. We would not keep it red for our local threat here at this point. I mean, it's about what's to the west. I mean, what could transpire out there is a little bit more robust, but the threat should really be dwindling down as it gets closer. I mean, it still doesn't mean we couldn't have some isolated damage. Things really underachieved last week. It's not impossible things could overachieve here this week, but 50% chance of rain. Some areas won't really get much rain, if any, so may have to go a little higher on that, but rainfall amounts are not expected to be all that productive here, really. They're not expected to get up there too much. I mean, some areas still need the rain, so we keep that in mind, but can use the drying out where I'm at least here east of Stark. But as you're looking there toward that Saturday, 63 degrees there for the high, so cool air again. It's that roller coaster ride. I mean, up, down here. We've been alluding to that here, and we're seeing that again, and we're going to get that again next week. I mean, you see 81 there by Tuesday, and then maybe another dip down with some storms. We'll see it next week, but a little too early for the specifics there. But you can see 81 degrees for that high on Tuesday, at least with the exception of Friday, which it may not even be a big deal, but because it's by the time the game is expected to start, talking about FSU baseball, weather should be pretty good for that. Honestly, I'm not too concerned for the FSU baseball game at this point for Friday, but Saturday, Sunday for sure. Weather looking good there. Your rain chances minuscule. Daytona 500, we're not really expecting rain down there, so that's some really good news for folks there with those plans of those outdoor events. So just keep that in mind. Things are looking good, so just try to enjoy them. I don't really have to maybe check that radar here too much for events Saturday, Sunday, as we are watching. That's not always the case, so just try to enjoy it while you can. So you see the above average temperatures here Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday is a changing of the guard per se in terms of the weather, and then Saturday you're below average a little bit. As I know tonight, we're not gonna be as cool as we were back on that Tuesday morning. We got there just about 34 degrees, I believe it was, here east of Stark, a little bit above freezing, not quite to that marker there, though, which some good news in some ways. But you see 55 degrees by Tuesday morning there with the high of 81. So above average again. You see how we go up and down. That's the pattern we're in. So it's interesting. I guess if you don't like the weather one day, just wait for the next day and it'll change on you. But we're just going to keep watching everything here in that regard. I know President's Day coming up there for that Monday. That looks like a pretty good weather day for those that have it off there to enjoy. But at least we're thankful that the weather that was supposed to be so serious last week didn't materialize into anything really of note for the local area. That was really good news. A welcome surprise, Roy, because if we would have had, and I'll go to our radar map here now, I have it zoomed out a good bit. I do have it zoomed out a good bit here, but it was a welcome surprise because we could have got really unlucky here in that regard. I mean, to be quite honest, things could have been very serious for us here as we were looking there last weekend. I'll go back to 7-day one last time to show you that here real quick and show you that future. We're not expecting chances of rain to be near as high. We got about an inch and a half here east of Stark back there last weekend, but we're not expecting near that much rainfall this time around. Some areas won't even get the precip really, so that's kind of the storyline there. But we'll just keep on watching things, keep on tracking things for you here in the Weather Center. I mean, but if the parameters came together last week like they were available to do so, we could have had a strong tornado within our Florida counties. That was really on the table, and that's not always the case in these type of setups. Some of the analog for showing that possibility, but if things don't come together just right, things pretty much just fail to become severe, and that's what happened, and that was some really good news. But one thing I have to see here on this map that's zoomed out here right now is just the overall pattern, because it's pretty interesting. You see all our different wind arrows here. I know you can get kind of crowded here at times. I'll take the temperatures off here in a moment, but see the temperature's not all that cold to the north around Chicago, but to the west core as we move the map over a little bit. There's a low pressure here, folks, and I know we've been seeing just some windy conditions depending on where folks are at here with this overall pattern. I mean, look at those winds there. In South Dakota, it looks like. I mean, we're talking about there, that's the 50 knots. I mean, that's getting up there even higher as we get there and toward areas around Fargo, North Dakota. They're getting freezing fog right now, 13-degree temperature. But the winds at 56 knots means that wind chill there is below zero. So that is bad weather for them. Let me put it in winter mode so you guys see what I'm talking about in terms of some different types of precip that we're dealing with, really. So it's an interesting pattern, expecting quite a bit of wind in Missouri. Some areas got that wind, some areas not as much, but just seeing that, depending on where you're at, we've had wind advisories, high wind warnings here on play. Some areas that don't get them all that much are toward the heartland. They had a high wind warning in play for the first time in several years there for parts of southeast Missouri, but maybe didn't materialize quite as bad as it could have. It just depends on how things set up on us here from time to time. So let's get back to the local view now. You see nothing on that at first, but then when I go ahead and put the temperature back on there, that can kind of help us describe the situation a little bit better here, kind of make some notations for you guys, the viewer at home. You know, that new SPC outlook will be out within an hour here forward at Wednesday. We'll see how things kind of change or don't change here. Don't really want it to change, probably. We don't want to see an increase in those risk probabilities here as we look out toward the west, and same with Thursday. We don't want them to go up either. We would like some of that slight risk to be taken away for some of those different areas that we kind of have our eyes on there across the country. So we'll just continue to monitor things here in the Weather Center. I'm going to keep the logo red for now. Just going to maintain it. If we wouldn't have started with this red logo, the threat wouldn't have been enough to keep it like this. But we talked about it on Saturday. We wanted to go ahead and just keep it red because the threat looks so pronounced there back Saturday for this part of the week here. Coming up Wednesday, Thursday, it's still there to some degree, and it could overachieve the current outlooks that are in play. Hopefully it really doesn't come together at all, but there are enough STP values out there in our HRRR model, and that sometimes can be an indicator if things come together in the wrong way, things could overachieve on us. So just want to be on the side of caution, but that's going to go ahead and do it for now. If we need to be back on before Thursday, of course we will, as we provide the latest here from that national level. If we need to be back for anything locally here about the time we come on a little bit earlier than that, really on Thursday, then of course we will. But otherwise, we'll have that formal update here late Thursday. And we just thank you so much for tuning in here on this Tuesday night, now early Wednesday morning. I hope you had a happy Valentine's Day, a happy Valentine's night, and now I hope you have a great rest of the week here as we're monitoring that severe threat out to the west. We'll keep our eyes on it here for you in the Weather Center. But I know last week was Severe Weather Awareness Week here in the state of Florida, and there's different weeks depending on where you are in the tri-state here. And it's always just important to keep an eye on things, especially here this time of year when we have those higher end threats that are possible. But we'll be paying attention out to the west, but it's still be weekend by the time it gets closer to home. Have a great night.